Chapter 1. Introduction. Hi, I am Ariel, and today I am going to talk about why your mind goes blank while speaking English. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank? You can't think of the next word, the right sentence, or even what you were going to say at all. It's like your brain just freezes. If this happens to you while speaking English, you're not alone. It's something many learners experience. But why does this happen? Is it because you don't know enough English? No, that's not the reason. Often your mind goes blank because of the pressure you put on yourself. You might feel nervous about making mistakes, or you might worry about what others will think of you. And when this fear takes over, it blocks your ability to think clearly. This happens because of something psychologists call the fight or flight response. When we feel stressed or anxious, our brain focuses on survival, on escaping the situation, and in that moment, forming thoughts and speaking clearly becomes harder. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. This famous quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt reminds us that fear can be our biggest enemy. When we focus too much on the fear of speaking English, it stops us from expressing ourselves naturally. But here's the good news. We can overcome this fear. Today, I'll share with you why your mind goes blank, and more importantly, what you can do about it. First, let's talk about nervousness. It's the most common reason people struggle with speaking English. When you're nervous, your brain starts to overthink. You worry about grammar, pronunciation, or whether the person you're speaking to understands you. This overload of thoughts blocks your natural flow of speech, and suddenly, your mind feels empty. So, how do we stop this from happening? One simple way is to breathe. It might sound basic, but taking a deep breath before you speak helps calm your mind. When you're calm, it's easier to focus, and the words come more naturally. Another reason your mind goes blank is the fear of making mistakes. Many people feel that they need to speak English perfectly, and when they don't, they freeze. But here's a secret. Nobody speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. We all make mistakes, and that's okay. In fact, mistakes are part of learning. The more you allow yourself to make mistakes, the more confident you'll become. Here's another great quote to remember. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Confucius. This means that making mistakes isn't the problem. The real success is in learning from those mistakes and continuing to practice. I want to encourage you to think about this. How many times have you worried about making mistakes, and that worry actually made it harder for you to speak? The more you focus on trying to be perfect, the harder it becomes to communicate. So instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress. In the next chapters, we'll talk about the specific techniques you can use to stop your mind from going blank when speaking English. These include tips like slowing down when you speak, practicing thinking in English, and staying calm under pressure. Before we move on, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced your mind going blank while speaking English? What do you think caused it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure others will relate to your experience, and together we can help each other overcome this. And don't forget to check out the storyspeak.online, where I've uploaded videos with more tips on how to improve your English speaking skills. Chapter 2. The Root Cause: Fear of Judgment and Mistakes. Have you ever felt that heavy pressure when speaking English, like everyone is judging your every word? That pressure can be overwhelming, and it's one of the biggest reasons why your mind goes blank. It's not that you don't know the words, you do, but the fear of being judged or making mistakes can block your thoughts, making it feel like your brain has stopped working. Let's dig deeper into this fear. Many English learners feel like they must speak perfectly, or they'll be judged. You might worry that people will laugh at your mistakes or misunderstand you. This constant worry creates anxiety, and anxiety makes it almost impossible to speak clearly. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from speaking up because you were afraid of saying something wrong? This fear of judgment is natural, but it's also what holds you back from improving. The good news is, you're not alone. Many people face this exact problem, even when speaking their native language. Here's a quote to remember: "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Confucius. This means that the real challenge is not avoiding mistakes, but getting back up each time you fall. So, the fear of making mistakes shouldn't stop you from speaking. It should encourage you to try again, each time learning something new. When you fear being judged, your brain focuses more on the fear than on the actual conversation. Instead of thinking about what you want to say, your brain starts thinking about all the ways the conversation could go wrong. This overthinking makes it harder to find the right words, and suddenly, your mind goes blank. Here's how you can overcome this. Shift your focus. Instead of focusing on what others might think, focus on the message you want to share. Remember that most people are not judging you as harshly as you think. They are more interested in what you have to say, not in whether you make a small mistake. When you focus on your message, it becomes easier to speak, and your mind won't freeze as easily. Embrace mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning, and everyone makes them, even native speakers. The key is not to let the fear of making mistakes paralyze you. Accept that you might make a mistake, and that's okay. The more comfortable you become with making mistakes, the less power this fear will have over you. Practice speaking freely. One way to overcome the fear of judgment is to practice speaking in a safe and supportive environment. You can start by speaking with friends or in small groups where you feel comfortable. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Another great technique is shadowing, which we discussed in our previous podcasts. Shadowing helps you practice speaking without overthinking. You listen to someone speak in English and immediately repeat what they say, mimicking their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. It's a great way to build fluency and reduce the fear of speaking because you're practicing in real time without the pressure of creating your own sentences. If you want more practice, don't forget to check out the videos on the storyspeak.online, where I've uploaded exercises specifically designed to help you overcome your fear of speaking English. These videos focus on building confidence by practicing in a low-pressure environment, helping you feel more prepared when it's time to speak in real situations. Here's another quote to inspire you. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. Thomas Edison. The more you practice, the less fear will control you. And with each small success, your confidence will grow. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever been afraid of speaking English because you thought others were judging you? What helped you overcome that fear? Your experience could help someone else in this community who is going through the same thing. Chapter 3. Overthinking and its impact on your speech. Have you ever been in a situation where you were trying so hard to speak perfectly that you ended up not being able to speak at all? Overthinking is one of the most common reasons why your mind goes blank while speaking English. You might find yourself planning every word, every sentence, and worrying about whether your grammar is correct. In doing so, your brain gets overloaded, and suddenly, you can't think of anything to say. Overthinking is like a traffic jam in your mind, when too many thoughts are trying to come through at once, like, am I using the right word? Or, is my pronunciation okay? Everything stops. Your brain tries to handle all these thoughts, but instead of helping you speak, it just freezes. Let's break it down. When you're speaking English, it's natural to want to sound as fluent as possible. But when you focus too much on getting every word right, you lose track of the conversation. Your mind becomes more concerned with avoiding mistakes than with actually communicating. One thing that can help is letting go of the idea of perfection. Remember, nobody speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. It's okay to stumble on a word or pause for a moment. The key is to keep going, even if it's not perfect. As long as you're understood, you're achieving the main goal of communication. Here's a quote to think about. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Winston Churchill. This means that when you try too hard to be perfect, you stop yourself from making progress. You might end up not speaking at all because you're afraid of making mistakes, and that holds you back. So, how can you stop overthinking while speaking English? Focus on communication, not perfection. Remember that the goal of speaking is to communicate your thoughts, not to be perfect. Instead of worrying about every little mistake, think about the message you want to share. This shift in focus will help you speak more naturally and confidently. Practice. Speaking freely. One technique to overcome overthinking is to practice speaking without planning everything in advance. Try speaking about simple topics, like what you did today or your favorite movie, without worrying about making it perfect. The more you practice speaking freely, the easier it will be to avoid overthinking when you're in real conversations. Use shadowing. Shadowing is a great way to reduce overthinking. By listening to someone else speak and immediately repeating their words, you don't have time to overthink. You're forced to focus on the rhythm and flow of the language, which helps you speak more naturally. You can find shadowing exercises in the videos I've uploaded on the storyspeak.online to help you practice. Slow down. When you overthink, you might feel like you need to speak quickly to avoid mistakes. But speaking too fast can actually cause more mistakes and make it harder to think clearly. Instead, slow down. Take your time with each word. This gives your brain a chance to catch up and organize your thoughts. Another thing that can help is thinking in English. If you constantly translate from your native language to English in your head, it can slow you down and make speaking more difficult. Try practicing thinking in English, even if it's just with simple thoughts like, "What should I eat for dinner?" or "What's the weather like today?" Over time, this will help you feel more comfortable speaking without overthinking. Overthinking is a habit that takes time to break, but the more you practice, the easier it will become. The goal is to free your mind from all those little worries and focus on what really matters, communicating your thoughts clearly. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever found yourself overthinking while speaking English? What do you do to overcome it? Let's help each other by sharing tips and experiences. Chapter 4: Lack of Confidence and How to Build It. When it comes to speaking English, confidence plays a huge role. Have you ever noticed that when you don't feel confident, it's harder to speak? Your mind goes blank, and suddenly, the words you were sure you knew seem to disappear. This happens to many learners, and it's a key reason why speaking English can feel so challenging. But here's the truth. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Let's start by understanding why lack of confidence causes mental blocks. When you don't believe in your ability to speak English, you start doubting yourself. These doubts become loud in your mind. You might think, "What if I say it wrong?" or "I'm not good enough to speak English fluently." This negative self-talk creates a loop in your head, making it harder to think clearly and form sentences. Here's a quote to remember: "Believe you can and you're halfway there." Theodore Roosevelt. This means that having belief in yourself is already a big part of the journey. Once you believe you can do it, the rest becomes easier. But how do you build that belief? One of the most effective ways to build confidence is by practicing regularly. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become. Start small. Practice by talking to yourself in the mirror or recording yourself speaking English. It might feel strange at first, but each time you do it, you're building confidence. The more you expose yourself to speaking, the less scary it will seem. Another tip is to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Did you successfully have a short conversation in English today? That's a win. It's important to focus on the progress you're making rather than comparing yourself to others. Remember, everyone learns at their own pace, and each step forward is a success. One way to stay motivated is to surround yourself with positive affirmations. For example, say to yourself, "I am improving every day," or "I can speak English confidently." These simple statements can change the way you see yourself. They replace negative thoughts with positive ones, helping you feel more capable of expressing yourself. If you've ever watched confident speakers, you'll notice they speak clearly even when they make mistakes. That's because confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about continuing to speak even when things don't go as planned. Mistakes are part of the process, and confident people accept that. Here's what you can do to build confidence in your English speaking. Start small. Begin by speaking to yourself. Say simple sentences out loud, even if it's just narrating what you're doing. For example, I'm making breakfast, or I'm going to the store. This practice helps you get used to hearing your voice in English. Talk to supportive people. Practice speaking with friends or family members who support your learning. When you speak with people who encourage you, you'll feel less pressure and more freedom to make mistakes and learn from them. Shadowing practice. Shadowing can help you gain confidence. By repeating after a native speaker, you're not only improving your pronunciation, but also training yourself to speak without hesitation. Check out the shadowing exercises available on the storyspeak.online to help you practice this technique. Record yourself. One of the best ways to track your progress is by recording yourself speaking English. Start with a simple introduction. Hi, my name is your name, and I'm practicing my English. As you practice more, watch your recordings to see how much you've improved. You'll be amazed at the progress over time. Confidence also comes from changing the way you think about mistakes. Every time you make a mistake, remind yourself that it's part of learning. Instead of feeling embarrassed, think of it as a chance to improve. When you stop fearing mistakes, you'll find that your mind won't go blank as often, and speaking English becomes less stressful. Another quote for inspiration: courage doesn't mean you don't get afraid. Courage means you don't let fear stop you. Bethany Hamilton. This reminds us that even if you're nervous, you can still push through and speak confidently. The key is not to let fear hold you back. Confidence isn't built overnight, but with consistent effort and a positive mindset, you'll start to feel more comfortable speaking English. And as your confidence grows, your mind will stop going blank, and you'll find that speaking English becomes easier and more natural. What's something that makes you feel more confident when speaking English? Share it in the comments below. Your tip might be the encouragement someone else needs. Chapter 5. Speaking too quickly and losing track of your thoughts. Have you ever started speaking English and before you know it, your mind is racing faster than your words? You're speaking quickly, trying to keep up with your thoughts, and suddenly, everything goes blank. You lose track of what you were saying, and it feels like you're stuck. Speaking too quickly is a common cause of mental blocks, and it's something that can easily be fixed. When we're nervous or eager to express ourselves, we tend to speed up. It's as if we're trying to say everything before we forget it. But this actually works against us. Speaking too fast puts pressure on your mind to keep up with your words, and when the brain can't handle the speed, it shuts down for a moment. That's when your mind goes blank. Slowing down not only helps you stay calm, but it also gives your brain time to process your thoughts and find the right words. When you slow your speech, you also appear more confident and in control. Rushing makes you seem unsure, while taking your time shows that you're clear in your thoughts. Here's a simple trick. Pause. Taking a small pause between sentences or even between words allows your brain to catch up with your mouth. It's okay to take a breath and think about what you want to say next. Pausing isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of careful thinking. Think of some of the world's greatest public speakers. They don't rush through their speeches. Instead, they speak slowly and clearly, giving each word importance. You can do the same when speaking English. Take your time with each word and don't worry about the silence. Silence, in fact, can make your speech more powerful. A great example comes from Barack Obama, who is known for his calm and measured speech. He uses pauses effectively, which gives his audience time to absorb what he says and makes his words more impactful. You can use the same technique when speaking English. Here's a helpful quote to remember. The right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. Mark Twain. This means that sometimes saying nothing for a second is just as powerful as saying something. A pause gives you time to think, and it gives your listeners time to understand. So how can you learn to slow down and keep your thoughts clear? Practice speaking slowly. Start by practicing speaking at a slower pace. Pick any topic, such as what you did today, and speak about it slowly. Focus on each word and take your time. If you feel yourself speeding up, remind yourself to pause. Use shorter sentences. When you're nervous, it's easy to try to say everything in one long sentence. Instead, break your thoughts into shorter sentences. This helps you stay focused and reduces the chance of losing your train of thought. Take a breath. One of the best ways to slow down is by breathing. When you feel yourself speeding up, take a deep breath. It will calm your nerves and help you control your pace. Mind the pauses. Pauses give your brain time to find the right words. Don't be afraid of short moments of silence. Pausing helps you gather your thoughts and speak more clearly. By speaking slowly, you'll find that your mind stays clearer, and you're less likely to forget what you want to say. Slowing down helps you feel more in control, and this confidence will show in your speech. You'll also notice that your listeners are more engaged because they can follow your words more easily. Another helpful practice is to listen to yourself speak. You can record yourself speaking English and listen to how fast you're talking. If you notice that you're rushing, try speaking slower in your next recording. Over time, you'll find the pace that feels natural and keeps your thoughts clear. If you'd like more tips on controlling your speed while speaking English, check out the videos I've uploaded on thestoryspeak.online. There, I've shared exercises to help you practice speaking slowly and confidently. Remember, speaking quickly doesn't make you sound more fluent. Speaking clearly does. The next time you feel yourself speeding up, remind yourself to slow down. You'll be surprised at how much better you communicate when you take your time. In the comments, share your experience. Have you ever felt like you were speaking too fast and lost track of your thoughts? How did you handle it? Your tips could help someone else who is struggling with the same thing. Chapter 6. Techniques to stay calm and focused. While speaking, it's common to feel nervous or stressed when speaking English, especially in front of others. And when those nerves kick in, your mind can go blank. But staying calm is key to keeping your thoughts organized and your words flowing. In this chapter, we'll explore simple techniques that will help you stay calm and focused, even in the most stressful situations. First, let's talk about breathing. Yes, it sounds simple, but breathing deeply is one of the most effective ways to calm your nerves. When you're anxious, your breathing becomes shallow, which increases your stress. By taking a few deep breaths before and during your conversation, you help calm your mind and body, making it easier to think clearly and speak confidently. Try this exercise. Before you start speaking, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, and then slowly breathe out through your mouth. Repeat this a couple of times until you feel more relaxed. This will signal to your brain that everything is okay and you'll be able to focus better. Another great technique to stay calm is preparation. When you know you're going to have a conversation in English, whether it's at work, school, or with a friend, take a few moments to think about what you want to say. You don't have to prepare a script, but having a general idea of your points can help reduce the pressure. The more prepared you feel, the more confident and calm you'll be. Here's a quote to keep in mind. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Benjamin Franklin. This reminds us that a little preparation can go a long way in boosting your confidence and reducing nervousness. When you know your topic well, you'll feel more comfortable speaking about it. Practice is another key to staying calm. The more you practice speaking English, the more natural it becomes. You can start by practicing at home, speaking in front of a mirror, or recording yourself. The more you get used to hearing your own voice in English, the less intimidating it will feel when you're speaking in front of others. You can even practice with a friend or join an online speaking group to build your confidence. A technique that helps many people stay calm while speaking is visualizing success. Before you begin speaking, take a moment to imagine yourself speaking clearly and confidently. Picture the conversation going well and your listener understanding you perfectly. This positive mental image can help reduce your anxiety and give you the confidence to speak with ease. Another helpful strategy is to focus on the message, not the words. When you're too focused on finding the perfect word or saying everything correctly, it can create stress and make you feel stuck. Instead, focus on the message you want to communicate. Your listeners care more about understanding your point than whether every word is perfect. If you do get stuck or lose track of your thoughts, don't panic. Take a pause. It's okay to pause and collect your thoughts. Remember what we talked about in the last chapter. Pausing doesn't make you look bad. It gives you time to think and speak more clearly. You can even say something like, "Let me think for a second," or "I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought," to buy yourself a little time. It's natural, and most people won't even notice the pause. Here's another quote to inspire you. It's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. Lou Holtz. This means that stress doesn't come from the situation itself, but from how we handle it. By using these techniques to stay calm and focused, you can handle any situation with confidence. Let's also talk about simplifying your speech. When you're nervous, it's easy to try to impress others by using complex sentences or advanced vocabulary. But this can often make things harder. Instead, use simple and clear language. You'll find it much easier to express yourself, and your listeners will understand you better. Over time, as you grow more confident, you can add more complexity to your speech. Another tool that can help is shadowing. We've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. Shadowing helps you practice speaking without overthinking. You listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately after. This builds your fluency and helps you get used to speaking naturally. Check out the shadowing exercises I've uploaded on the storyspeak.online to help you practice this technique. Finally, staying positive is crucial. When you're nervous, it's easy to think negative thoughts like, "I can't do this," or "I'm not good enough." But these thoughts only make you more nervous. Instead, try to replace them with positive affirmations like, "I can speak English," or "I'm getting better every day." Positive thinking can make a big difference in how you feel and how you speak. What helps you stay calm when speaking English? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your tips, and they might help someone else who's struggling with the same issue. Chapter 7. Overcoming the Fear and Speaking Confidently. Congratulations! You've made it to the final chapter of this podcast. By now, you've learned about why your mind goes blank when speaking English and how to overcome many of the challenges. But now, let's focus on overcoming the fear of speaking English for good and moving forward with confidence. Fear is the root cause behind most mental blocks while speaking English. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, and even fear of forgetting what to say. But here's the truth. The more you face that fear, the smaller it becomes. The real power is in taking that step forward and speaking even when you're afraid. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite the fear. So, how do you finally overcome that fear and speak confidently? Let's break it down. First, embrace the fear. It sounds strange, but acknowledging that you're nervous and that fear is a part of the learning process can actually help you feel more comfortable. Everyone feels nervous at times, even experienced speakers. What matters is that you keep going. Here's a powerful quote to remember. "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." Ralph Waldo Emerson. This means that the more you practice speaking, the less intimidating it becomes. Each time you speak, you'll gain a little more confidence, and the fear will lose its power. One of the most important steps in overcoming the fear of speaking is to reframe how you think about mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They're stepping stones. Every time you make a mistake, you're learning and improving. Instead of avoiding mistakes, see them as progress. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. In fact, the most successful learners are the ones who make mistakes and learn from them. Another helpful approach is to start small. If you feel overwhelmed by the idea of speaking English in big conversations, start with small steps. Have short conversations with friends or practice speaking in front of the mirror. Gradually, as you get more comfortable, move on to longer and more complex discussions. Confidence grows with practice, and each small step takes you closer to feeling more at ease. Set realistic goals for yourself. Instead of aiming to speak perfectly, aim to communicate clearly. Focus on expressing your thoughts, even if they're not in perfect grammar. Communication is the goal, and people will appreciate your effort to speak in a language that isn't your first. Surround yourself with positive influences. Speak with people who encourage you and support your learning journey. It's much easier to overcome fear when you know that the people around you are cheering for your success. Join online groups, chat with language partners, or talk with friends who understand your journey. Here's another quote to inspire you. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. This means that every time you speak, regardless of whether it goes perfectly or not, you're succeeding because you had the courage to try. Speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to communicate. If you ever feel stuck, remind yourself of all the progress you've made. Think back to where you started and how far you've come. Confidence is built over time, and each day you practice speaking, you're becoming more fluent, more confident, and more capable. Finally, remember to keep practicing. The journey to fluency doesn't end, and the more you speak, the more natural it becomes. Practice daily, even if it's just a few sentences. Check out thestoryspeak.online for more exercises and videos to help you on your path to English fluency. You can practice shadowing, speaking out loud, or even joining a language exchange. Whatever you choose, the key is consistency. As we wrap up this podcast, I want to say a big thank you for joining me on this journey. I believe in your ability to overcome your fear and speak English confidently. You've taken a great step forward by learning these techniques, and I know you can apply them in your own conversations. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What has helped you the most in overcoming the fear of speaking English? Do you have any tips that could help others? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'm excited to read them. And remember, speaking English is a journey. With every conversation, you're getting